let's talk about the castle, the rooms, and doors. So your home is your castle, period. You can decorate your castle however you want. Decorations are good. It makes you feel like it's yours. It makes you feel connected. It makes you feel happy, but it's not needed, right? So be careful with decorations, because you could go down a path of engaging with the system too much because you're trying to decorate it. Bare necessities, right? What do you actually need versus what do you actually want? Prioritization of what's important and excuses versus justifications on buying something. But basically, if you're going to get something and you're going to use it and it's going to be a tool and also make you happy and helpful, then it's worth it. We'll get to that, especially as the world is going to slowly, or quickly, we're going to make it quickly, change from its reliance on money. We're going to move away from currency system. We're going to move towards a helping society and innovationism instead of capitalism. Things are going to change, right? So maybe we can create a world where we give people the opportunity to just choose to select a few decorations for their castle, and they can use that as a basis and a foundation. And then if they want to upgrade their decorations or something like that, maybe they get rewarded after innovating. We'll see. To be determined, and that's where you guys come in, right? We need to work together to come up with a new system, a new idea for this world, for this game, for this vision. So you have a castle, right? And think about it in the old days, in the medieval days. The king had a castle and it was their fortress. It was where they were safe. So wherever you live, your shelter, that's your castle. That's where you're safe. You know, the castle had guards. The castle had maybe an entrance. And this is why we talk about when someone knocks, don't open, because you might be letting in the Trojan horse. So if they knock and you open, even if you just see them at the entrance of the gate, and you're up, the castle's like 100 yards distance from the opening of the gate, and you see them, that you might see a person that reminds you of a horrible trigger or trauma. And just by seeing them, you're like, "Hey there, king!" And then you're like, "Get that person out of here." Guess what? You saw them. You nudged. They gave you a nudge. You let them in. It was free will. You didn't have to let me in. You let me in. Well, you can't be mad. You see? So you need to protect your castle at all costs. Don't let people in. And if you do, make sure it's very well calculated, because, oh man, as you think back to your life, think about all the problems that happened when you let people into your castle, when everything was quiet and calm before that. That's why the internet and remote things are powerful, because yes, we let people in, like you guys could be in the chats and start making nudges and insults and comments. There's a lot more control here. I'm a lot more protected than if someone was physically here with me. Think about that. Your castle is everything. It gets to understanding the way the world works in regards to the castle is that, think of it as, some people, I might call it a reality bubble, but I've started to prefer calling it rooms. So think about in your house or your apartment, there's rooms. And there's a reason why doors exist. People think they're just there to, I don't know, like for privacy, but it's more than that. When you open a door and you go into the next room and then you close it, think of it as like you crossed an invisible magical barrier. When you cross that magical barrier, a different event activates. Think of it like something is spawned, like a new virtual reality. And like if you've ever done one of those virtual tours of real estate, think of it like that. Like it just, it teleports you somewhere else. It teleports you somewhere else. So there's different events that can happen in that room. And if it's like, for example, the bathroom is one of the safest places that you can be. It usually doesn't have windows. There's not a lot of noise in there. There's the shower, there's the bathroom or the toilet, but sometimes they might try to create noise in there if they realize that it's your safe spot. So be careful about that. Pay attention. If things start breaking in the bathroom, you're like, why is that happening? There might be nudges going on because they are catching on that it's your safe spot. So when you're in that room, an event activates, right? So for most people, that's just going to the bathroom or taking a shower or getting ready in the morning. But now if you bring in your phone, new events can happen, right? All of a sudden, let's say you're browsing social media while you're on the toilet. Well, guess what? Now nudges are open. You see why, like, everything that you bring in is an in. That's what we're talking about. You have to pay attention to ins. Like, how would you infiltrate someone who literally locked themselves up in a room and never leaves? How would you infiltrate it? Well, maybe we give them a warning that says, hey, your neighborhood we ordered an evacuation. There's a fire nearby. It could be a lie, it could be literally fake, but if you scare them and you motivate them to leave the house, now they actually left, so now they're open and prone to nudges coming in. Now, something might happen. What if you know that they're motivated by their ex or like a long-lost lover, and all of a sudden they get a card in the mail. Literally, they locked themselves in the room because they understood the game. And they get a card in the mail that says, hey, I was just thinking about you last night. I really miss you. Do you want to meet me in Wyoming? And you're like, oh my gosh, it's my high school lover, the girl I was going to date, and she reached out to me. And now you go. You go to Wyoming. Now you're open because you're outside in the world. You're no longer protected in your castle, in the rooms. Now events activate. Think about it like this. Your apartment is 1 square. The apartment building is another square. And then there's the outside. That's another reality. So in each one of those, different events can happen, right? Your inner one is the most protected, right? The only thing that can happen there, as long as make sure you lock your doors, the only thing that can happen there are the events that you let in. So you don't let people in, you're much more protected. Protect your ins. Do an audit. Like, where could noise come in? Which vessels could they use to inhabit to send me nudges? Phones, internet, ads. And they don't have to be bad. Remember what I said, like, you get light nudges and you get dark nudges. Pay attention to it. You're literally opening it. The more things you're opening yourself to, the more, there's a reason why actually going old school, like maybe listening to music on like CDs could be valuable, because guess what? There's no opening there to nudges. If they catch on that you really have gone so good, there might be some nudges where it gets to the point where they actually just like pause the music or skip the music to try to scare you. That's possible. You can get to that level. 100%. Be open for it. The stronger you get, the more you're aware of, the more things will escalate, but for good and for bad. But eventually, if you are light enough and you understand the game, bad doesn't have a chance. Think of it, you go to work. We've already talked about how the whole point is to try to keep your energy levels down, right? So that's why they try to wake people up early, have to get ready. They want everyone going to work at the same hour so that there's traffic created, because that's noise. It literally causes stress. It causes issues. It causes potential accidents, which just causes more problems, right? Like all of those things are all to drain energy. But now everyone's tired. Everyone's early. Now everyone's relying on external resources to gain energy. But when you get to work, when you enter that building, think of it like once you open the door, like that there's a magical barrier. Bring. Or think like when you have like those tickets, like a train or subway stations or like the airport, it scans it, you get in. That is literally you're entering the next area. Like think of it like they're squared off areas, and now you activate that next room, that next area. So in work down, there's going to be different events that happen, and there's going to be dark and light stuff. There's going to be people that go there that might have no influences or nudges. That's possible. That's certainly possible. I'm still trying to discover more, and if people have information about this, let me know. I'm trying to figure out if everyone who shows up got nudged there or not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. But essentially, the people who show up at work, at your work, or maybe it's just your coworkers, it's not customer facing at all. Like the things that you experienced that day, most of them are going to be nudges. You might have a really bad client. Guess what? That was dark. Dark made that happen. Now, it could be that you were finally like learned enough lessons that light wanted to present you a problematic customer, but they're not going to be bad. Like they're going to challenge you, but it's going to be for a good reason, for a good lesson. That could be a light nudge, right? But again, the discernment where it's like, did it actually lead to an overall positive thing? Because even if, let's say, you didn't learn the lesson and you failed the test, like you didn't pass, light's like, oh, it's okay. that customer's going to be like, hey, you know what? It's okay. Don't sweat it. You're like, wow, you were really mean just a second ago. And they walk away. That's because it was a light nudge. It wasn't meant to cause you harm. If it causes you harm, it wasn't a light nudge. It was from dark. You guys see the difference? Like, so think about, yeah. That's a good reminder. It's not going to cause you harm. And the problem is that sometimes we don't realize it until way later. That's the challenging part about this, about once you start understanding the game, is that sometimes you can't see beyond the short term, and that's a flaw. I mean, as you start reaching enlightenment and awakening and embracing spirituality, you start being able to see further. It's almost like you gain, some people call it the third eye, but it's like can see in the future, essentially. Like it makes sense. You can like simulate outcomes, and you can understand where this is headed and where this is going. But the biggest thing I want people to realize is that when you're at work, right, you're no longer in control of everything that's going to happen, because this is not your castle. It's someone else's castle. You're in someone else's castle. So they can invite people in that literally are the ultimate poison to you. And there's nothing you can do about it unless you somehow like run or hide or lock yourself in the bathroom or run away or... And then think about it. While you're at work, every single room, like let's say you go into your boss's office, you literally, especially if the door closes, if you close the door, now you separate yourself from all the other noises, all the other nudges that are outside. So it could just be the two of you, right? So that's why closing doors is actually very, very, closing doors is very, 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 very important. If you go in somewhere and you want to separate, create a separation of things, make sure you close the door, because then it's just you and that thing. Otherwise, you leave things open to chance. So if it's just you and your boss, right, like it changes the reality, it changes the situation. So close doors. Otherwise, you're at risk of letting more nudges in, more energies, more spiritual influences, more people influence. Even think just like you leave the door open, now they can hear, right? Like a coworker is like, wait, did I just hear you say that you like the Broncos? Broncos suck. You're like, what the heck? Like, how did they... You see what's going on? Like, if you leave the door open, you literally are inviting more potential nudges and issues that can arise, good and bad. So that's up to you. It can be used as a tool of protection, right? Like, think about it. Like, I mean, I just think about in my medical aesthetic device sales. Like, when my boss wanted to scam me and do an illegal activity where nothing was signed in writing in a contract, so that they could take my commissions illegally. They literally just pulled me aside and told me to be quiet and close the door, and it was just me and him. There was no one there to hear it, no one there to see it, right? If I had let the door open, I'm like, no, we only talk in front of other people. That's why doing it in public, sharing these information in public is protection, because, well, guess what? Everyone sees it, right? Now you're opening the nudges for the bad, but you're opening the nudges for the good. So what are they going to do, right? Do you see why doing it in public is the way to go? That was a reminder for myself, but for everyone. If they can't say it in public, why can't they? Right? What are they afraid of? Now, like I said, you're opening yourself also to negative things, so you have to be careful. You have to weigh the thing, but it's really interesting once you start understanding like everything is a subdivision, and the different events can occur based on which doors are open, which doors are closed. And so if you just don't decide to walk in, like your boss invites you to come into his office and he wanted to yell at you about something, but it wasn't your doing, but you just don't go. Like maybe you just leave. That event never activates. Now, does that mean that it's going to be a good thing? It depends. It depends, right? Now, I would say that depending on your awakening and your spiritual connection with your good side, that it will work out. So this is my plea to people to finally destroy the system